Hi, Jim Connor here at Game Changer Silicon Valley. We're back at the RSA conference. I'm with Mark Loman of Sophos. Mark, you've got a very interesting story. You're dealing with a mid-market, meaning 5,000 users, seats, and below, and you're dealing with nation-state attacks as well as malware and ransomware for that matter. So that's a pretty big spread, frankly. Why don't you give us a little overview of your approach and how you're distributing this technology?
Well, that's a good question. We've been developing at Sophos a product what we call Sophos Intercept X, and it's our solution against nation-state attackers, as well as ransomware, and of course cybercriminals. And because most of the vendors that are here today are looking for bad properties, but bad files. But what we see is that most attackers now drop their malware right into memory, which are a lot more difficult to detect. And if you look at the other vendors that are here, they require a file to be dropped on the disk, and we don't.
Do you see a difference in the approach or the sophistication of nation-state attacks versus pure criminals?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. It's about one of the topics of the talk that I gave. The topic was about looking at one particular vulnerability and investigating it, how a cybercriminal leverages this vulnerability and how a nation-state attacker leverages it. And we found significant differences because the nation-state attacker was able, he understands how security software works and is able to work around it, go undetected on the machine that it's attacking, while the cybercriminal doesn't really care about if there is sophisticated security software on it, because most of the machines that run at on endpoints, on computers, at businesses, or even at home, they don't have sophisticated protection against exploits and stuff like that.
Is it possible to really detect the source, the fingerprint, if you will, of the originator of these malware attacks?
The product that we developed, the Sophos Intercept X, is it doesn't use any signatures. It doesn't need any fingerprints. It basically looks for the techniques that are mandatory for basically any attack that you need to set up. These techniques do not change. There are about 20 to 30 techniques out there. And if you are capable of detecting these types of techniques while they're ongoing on your processor, on the computer, you can block the attack without requiring prior knowledge of this attack.
The area of ransomware is pretty disconcerting, to say the least. The fact is someone would encrypt your data, lock it up, and then force you to pay some kind of money to get the unencryption keys. How do you approach dealing with that issue?
Well, the ransomware is a very big issue indeed. It's very profitable for the cybercriminals, and we see that lots of cybercriminals with free time are jumping on the bandwagon and create ransomware of their own. There are huge differences between them, but what we found out is they're actually also, again, they all use the similar techniques. So the technique we developed, CryptoGuard, which is in Sophos Intercept X, looks for the encryption of your data, of your documents and photos. So instead of looking for the malware, we keep an eye on what's important to you: your documents, your photos, your intellectual property of your company data.
Yeah. There's been some pretty high-profile organizations that have been hit with ransomware, hospital systems, so on like that.
Yes, even the police stations, and they were they did not have a good backup, so they had to pay the fine to the criminals.
You've got me a little bit fascinated because I haven't spoken really to anybody at your level. So with all the sophistication and among people like you, do you think we're going to have a way to track down the perpetrators of ransomware?
Well, most of the ransomware is actually being developed in Russian-speaking countries. This is like Eastern Ukraine or Russia, and you need good cooperation with the Russian law enforcement. But unfortunately, the Russian law enforcement, although they do tend to help everyone out, as long as the Russians themselves don't attack Russian citizens, the Russian law enforcement is not enticed to pick up the perpetrators.
Great. Mark, I want to thank you for your time. You've been very insightful. What is some contact information if anybody would like to follow up with you from our audience?
You can contact us. You'll visit our website, www.sophos.com. You can also contact me directly at Twitter at Mark Loman. if you have any questions. And you'll also find the contact information on the website that I just provided.
Okay. Thanks so much, Mark, for your time. I wish you success going forward.
Thank you very much.